And again, will the numbers be revised? Yeah, they're always revised, one way or the other, and they've been revised between, during Barack Obama's term, Joe Biden's term, Donald Trump's first term. It happens all the time. I will say, Katty K, though, again, their front page, the New York Times. There's talking in the second term, talk about playing with the facts and the rise of authoritarianism, and we can have that debate, and a lot of people certainly deeply concerned about that. Let's just talk about the practical impact of this. And we have a New York Times writer who wrote on this wonderfully. We're going to have him next block. But you don't have to go to the Soviet Union to just look at the practical impacts of when leaders start to fudge the numbers, when governments start to fudge the numbers. You can look to Greece. You can look to China, and earlier part of the century, you can look to Argentina. I mean, Argentina is the perfect example, as our guests will point out, where they started fudging the numbers on inflation, and pretty soon the rest of the world markets that can't be intimidated by a president or a prime minister. World markets started to revolt, and things went sideways really quickly in Argentina. A lot of people, a lot of economists I talked to this weekend, that's their great fear here.
Yeah, just before the election, I had a conversation with Bob Rubin, who said to me that he didn't think America was going in the direction of Hungary. It was going more in the direction of Latin America. And he was talking about the kind of feudal oligarchical system, the patronage system. But he was also talking about the fact that you could get a country where people didn't believe in the rule of law or didn't believe in the statistics. I mean, that's been the real divider between the United States and some of the other countries that you've just mentioned, Joe, in terms of foreign investment opportunities, is that you look at the US and you can rely on two things. You can rely on an independent civil service that comes up with the right data that is true and that you can make your business decisions on. And you rely on the rule of law, which means that once you've made your contract with that country, that contract will be honoured. So with both of those things looking under pressure, this makes it very hard for outside businesses, outside investors to look at the United States in the way that they have done for the last 40 years. It's what, Elizabeth, obviously countries from the Soviet Union spent years specifically building up independent civil service so they would have the right kind of data, doing what America has done so successfully. Talk a little bit, you were nodding your head during some of the clips that were being played. Talk a little bit about Kevin Hassett's performance on Meet the Press, because he was asked repeatedly. I thought Kirsten did a great job saying, where's the evidence, where's the evidence? And actually he came up, what did he say? He said, yes, there is very hard evidence that we're looking at the biggest revision since 1968. That's the best that he could do.
It was extraordinary. You expect that, you don't expect that from someone who knows what he's talking about, an economist. The other thing I find interesting about this is that, the problem that Joe Biden had in 2024 was that they were saying the economy was in decent shape and people just weren't feeling it, right? Well, if President Trump starts saying things are great, don't trust the numbers, but if you're having a hard time finding a job and if inflation is still up, you're not feeling it yourself at all. And that's what's going on here. There was a very slow job market and prices were still really high. So I don't know what this gets President Trump to just proclaim that the economy is in great shape and the problem is in the numbers.
I mean, David, even some Republicans who've been loyal to Trump are concerned about this particular move. What are you hearing from within the party about?
Well, listen, they're going to be quiet. They're going to be quietly concerned, and they're not going to push back against Trump over this when there are so many other things that you might think they would have pushed back against that they didn't. But let's remind ourselves here that when the president talks about rigged numbers and says that it was rigged in favor of the Democrats right before the last election, it's just flatly untrue. The last jobs report before the November election was October because the election in November was too close for the October report. So this is the September report in October. Does anybody remember what the jobs numbers were? They were plus 12,000. It was a horrendous report. It was worse than this report that caused the president to fire the data chief. So, first of all, that's just flatly untrue, and it just shows you that the American government has been generally producing very good statistics, except for errors and rescissions that are a part of the process for a long time. And now, what is the debate? The political debate is can you trust the numbers or not? The president says they were rigged. Other people say they weren't rigged. And now it's a conversation about how, well, you couldn't rig them anyway, even if you tried. It's the exact conversation the president wants. And going forward, a lot of people now, if he gets a really good report, and it's completely deserved, which I'm going to assume because there are so many people working in the Department of Labor, a lot of people are going to say, oh, of course he got a good report. Now he's got his people, and now everybody's scared. So he's doing himself a disservice, but he's doing the country a disservice.
Yeah, it really is doing a country a disservice, and Meek, in the long term, again, if you're just talking about confidence in the United States economy, Caddy hit it. I mean, we have a strong civil service that's supposed to play it down the middle when you come up with these sort of numbers. That's number one. Also, an independent Fed. Whether people in the White House like it or not. And the second thing is a strong rule of law. That's what separates the United States from most other countries, most other economies. And so a lot of concerns. I want to say, though, as far as the press goes, that people have spoken out on this. One thing that I have noticed, though, through the weekend is the president's been allowed to say she did the same thing before the election and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just not true. And so many people on networks allow him to say something patently false. Oh, she rigged these numbers, and for my evidence, she rigged the numbers right before the... No, she didn't. As David said, and as I also said, the numbers right before the election, they were one of the worst job reports in a long time. The one right before the election was worse than this jobs report number. And so how members of the media allow him to come on and say that and don't say, well, actually, Mr. President, with all due respect, that's completely false. Again, is really says something about those people interviewing him who just sit silently as he passes by. Just a certifiable, deliberate spewing of disinformation.
Yeah, misleading people.